Nigeria meets its crude oil output target for January 2022, pumping 1.46 million barrels per day against a target of 1.68 million, as approved by the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. Meanwhile, the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources and the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited have blamed the low output to spate of pipelines, vandalism, delaying the full implementation of the Petroleum Industry Act, among others. Nigeria, Africa's main oil producer with 18 operating pipelines and an average daily production of 1.8 million barrels in 2020, dropped to second place in 2021 behind Libya in crude production. So the question is, what is the implication of Nigeria's crude oil target revenue in 2022 budget? So let's bring in our guest now. Mr. Kayode Ekundayo is the publisher, Energy Times. He joins us via the telephone. We appreciate your time, Mr. Ekundayo, for joining us.
Thank you very much.
And we say Happy New Year to you.
Yeah, thank you. Happy New Year.
Yeah. So Nigeria's oil revenue plunges due to drop in production output, according to officials of the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources and the National Petroleum Company. What do you suppose is the implication of these continuous depletion on the revenue target of the government? This is not the first time, of course. Nigeria gave way to Libya, coming in the second place in 2021.
Yeah, thank you. Let me correct this question. That's why Africa. Libya is no longer there to be found. There's a crisis in Libya. So Nigeria is leading the African country now. The daily production we are getting now is about 1.620 million barrels per day. Unfortunately, as at yesterday, OPEC increased the output of each member country by 400,000 barrels per day, which means that Nigerian crude oil production per day will now rise to 1.748 million barrels per day. The problem with the happening, why Nigeria has not been meeting its quota. What we should be talking about is why Nigeria has not been able to meet its daily quota as stipulated by OPEC. The problem we have has been consistently community crisis, whereby the oil companies declare force majeure on which they are facility. Let me give you an example. In December last year, which is one of the reports that came out by FAC, which released by the Nigerian NNPC, that indicated that almost 60 million barrels per day were lost throughout the year, the month of December. And the cause of this majorly has been the issue of vandalization as well as the community crisis. And why we have been having this is that some of these terminals, where some of these where the crude oil is listed abroad, are shut down during the period. And we have it consistently like that every month. So it's not that Nigeria doesn't have the ability to produce. Yes, the problem we have is ability to export and meet the OPEC quota. As I'm second to you, sir, the crude oil production in Nigeria is stable. But the export is declining. That is where we are. And fortunately, Nigeria budgeted $60 per barrel.
$62.
Right now, fortunately, and we thank God, we have 79 as of yesterday.
But the government is blaming the fact that there is pipeline vandalism. That is why the revenue is dropping in terms of oil revenue in January. So how do you reconcile this fact that the government is saying, look, our revenue is dropping because of this vandalism and some other factors like thievery and all that?
Yes, community challenges where the block the flow of the crude oil. So it's not that Nigeria is not getting money because we are having excess, almost $29 per day. We have excess of crude oil now that we need to do. And when you multiply it, it's almost over 1 million barrels per day. That's a lot of money which goes into the excess crude account, which the local government, federal government, and state government share at the end of the month. And that's a lot of money. So, it's one government where this money is going to. We are positioned. Crude oil is flowing. Now, we've opened it for 1.7 million barrels per day now for export. Why are we not, even if we are not exporting up to that amount, even the one we are importing, we still having high excess on which you can take care of the loss. Are you getting it, sir? Which can take care of the loss. Yes, the budget is $60 per barrel.
No, I think just a moment. Just a moment, Mr. Ekundayo. I just want us to, put out these figures out there. Yes, I think the budget, the benchmark in the 2022 budget is $62, right? While Nigeria has also is targeting to produce about 1.8 million barrels per day, as against the target of or the quota of OPEC, which is 1.68 million barrels of crude oil per day as well. You have also said. What did you say? Just allow me to land. Just allow me to land. Just allow me to land, and then you can continue from there. You have also said that the issue is not with the production, but the issue is with the export. I mean, so how do you make sense of this? That the fact that the issue is not with the production, but the government has said the production is the problem, and then you have said the issue is with export. So how do you make sense of this? That the fact that they have said it is depleting, it is affecting the revenue generation from oil. And we are saying, what is the implication of this on the economy? By extension, of course, more importantly, the 2022 budget as well, and the revenue target.
Yes, thank you very much. As I said, the crude oil we are exporting via the challenges. The oil companies are positioned, and that's what we know that we don't have crude oil, even the FPSO. What I'm saying is that they are having challenges exporting this crude because of community challenges and vandalism. And this is an implication of that in the Nigerian economy is that we do not have enough revenue and the budget will not be met. That's a very strong implication. Because when you targeted at certain things, like for instance, you say we are exporting 1.8 million barrels per day, and then we are exporting 1.4. That means we are under supplying to the market. Other countries will take over your market. This is what Russia is doing. This is what Saudi Arabia is doing. But as of now, as I said, Nigeria is leading the Africa in terms of exports. That's why the challenges we have with the Nigerian system. Then what I'm saying is that the production, yes, the people are saying it's declining. But when you look at the figure, of production, I don't seem to see that declining. Yes, we are not doing this land as it's supposed to be, as it used to be in the past. Thereby, new entrants will come into the economy, new investors will come into exporting to invest in the exploration and production of crude oil in Nigeria. Yes, what we have is that the whole world today, I mean, the OPEC plus, that's OPEC and non-OPEC countries are abiding by what what their group are seeing in terms of supplying to the market to make sure that they have excess crude. If you remember, last year, OPEC plus has been adding 400,000 barrels per day to each of the members of countries. And the reason is that they are trying to keep the price at low level so that it won't be they won't excess crude oil in the market, that they are affecting the price. And that yesterday I said they are having 79, which is likely to be $80 per day. In fact, the point this last month, it got to $80 per barrel. And which is no thing for the Nigerian economy. Even though we are not meeting the target, at least we are getting reward for the work. Some of the, reward for some of the losses we have. Yes, we are getting it at $50 per barrel. We are getting it at 80, we are getting it at 79, which is good for the economy. And definitely, I know, I think we just get 1.6 for the economy for this business. Yes, if the OPEC, Nigeria cannot export more than what OPEC says it should be exporting. Definitely, Nigeria cannot be exporting more than that. And
But
look at what I saw yesterday, before yesterday, concerning the fact this NNPC presented to the EPC. Yes, Nigeria got, I think Nigeria exported 1.6 million barrels per day. That's over 1.6 million barrels per day into the market. Which to me is very realistic because that is what OPEC says.
but let me quickly come in.
Beyond what OPEC says, it's a better to that.
But you don't think this difference, this gap, because if we're given target of 1.6 and then we're exporting 1.2, between 1.2 and 1.4, are you saying this gap, this deficit doesn't make any difference or impact in the revenue target?
It will make a lot of differences. What I'm saying is that there was even a mistake in the budget. I'm sorry to use this word. The government or the advisor to the president supposed to have known, understand the dynamics, fundamentals of crude oil market. The truth is that I didn't, when I saw that package, I laughed. That was like, I said, the federal government knew that we are being guided by open orders, which are being released to the market every month. Now they are targeting 1.6. How do you intend to export 1.8 million barrels to the market? I mean, looking at the situation we have at hand, even in Nigeria, we have definitely there some challenges, pipeline leakages, even naturally. These are all the challenges which are being expected. There are some challenges because government has budgeted that 60,000 naira multiplied by 1.8 million barrels per day. Government is operating consistent based on that particular budget. Definitely there is going to be deficit. But the deficit should not be too much because the increase in the price to be able to bring it down. They are not bringing it down 100%, at least 20-30% of the
Okay. Let's look at it again. I just want us to dwell a bit on that and look at the dynamics here. Well, because if the government is saying there is no fund, and so the only way alternative is to borrow, to take more loans, and then, of course, there is something we can do to meet up or to breach that deficit. I mean, so how do you think we can bridge this deficit here? Because if we're giving, if the quota is the target is 1.6 and 1.8 barrels of crude oil per day, and we are not meeting that target, what it means therefore is that it will affect the revenue, and in the same way there will be huge, the deficit in the 2022 budget will widen the more. So how do you think we can address this issue of taking to borrowings to address the deficit?
Let me say this, yeah, and I'm sorry to use this word. I don't think the federal government is sincere in terms of expending. We have LNG that even making more money than the crude oil we are producing. Nobody is talking about it. We are all focusing on crude oil production exports. LNG is making money. I think the last time they made 1 trillion naira. That's that money. Nobody is talking about it. Nobody. We are all focusing our attention on what crude oil we are getting, the percentage, the budget price. But government is not sincere about the spending of this oil and gas money. Nigeria is rich. I would say it anywhere. You see, let me tell you, when somebody told me, I think I'm just trying to tell you something about what and the other things. And now, I said this thing I never know. I predicted that the Nigerian government will not remove the subsidy. Then the money they want to give is like just making some people to enrich some people. Like we witnessed it in the last NSAS now, where government was giving money out to defenseless people. Here is basically looking to the pocket of private schools. I thank God that nobody didn't go ahead to make that mistake again. And we thank God that the church assembly is being suspended. Because I've never seen things in the world where a big country of 250 million people rely on the population without any single refinery working. I've never seen it before. Even a small country as they have refinery. Ghana has a refinery. There is no country in the world. US has almost 150 refinery. There is other country in the world. I don't know why you want to remove shocking people because say they are considering rich people. What the government have not provided is not to enrich the rich people. Is there any fundamental you have provided on grant to make sure that the rich people are not being more?
Those are salient questions.
Now, Nigeria now, they continue.
Those are very key questions. Those are very key questions, and I'm sure perhaps the government should be able to address these issues you are put on table going forward. But just before we wrap up, I just want us to look at these. 90% of Nigerian earnings comes from crude oil. Can you hear me? Hello, Mr. Ekundayo, are you there? Hello? Hello, Mr. Ekundayo. Okay. So yes, I was going to ask you this last question before we wrap up. 90% of our earnings comes from crude oil sales. So despite higher oil prices, external reserves fall by 1.2% in January. That's to about 40 billion. So it's losing about over 300 or about 400 million US dollars in January alone. I mean, how do you think, is there any alternative to ensure that Nigeria boosts its foreign reserves? What alternatives do we have here?
I didn't get that question. You said,
okay, I was asking you that. Yeah. Okay, I was asking you that in January alone, foreign reserve, the country's foreign reserves depleted by 1.2%. That's about over 400 million US dollars in January alone. And you know that 90% of our earnings comes from crude oil sales. And so, what alternatives do we have here to boost the external reserves?
Okay, thank you very much. We have gas, LNG is production. We have gas. I am suspecting we are likely to have that challenge in continuity because some percentage of Nigerian LNG has been diverted to local consumption now, which is an indication that it will deplete the foreign reserve further. Normally, LNG exports all its gas internationally, except maybe 20% that are allocated locally. That is a big challenge because we have LNG, we have protein, we have cocaine. If they are diverted the cocaine to Nigeria, which is cooking gas, normally it exports it. It only takes 20%. 80% are exports. But because of an inadequacy of cooking gas we have in Nigeria, that now diverted it locally, which means that because the federal government are arguing with some of these things. That is one. Two, the second one is this signature bonuses with those who buy the marginal fees they are buying. They are going to pay all this money to foreign reserve. It goes to the federal government account, it is foreign reserve, and some other central bank account. And besides that, there are other things the industry are paying. It's not only crude oil export, that generated that foreign exchange from Nigeria. We have other things like taxes, royalty, which all these companies are paying. They are paying. But what is boost further the foreign reserve for Nigeria? This signature bonuses which the oil companies are paying. They just move the bid. They have ordered them to pay, and after they are paying the signature bonuses, it will go to the system. We have 11 oil companies that just won the bid, that won the bid last time. 11 of them will not pay. So it's like the federal government is going to auction that giving it to the second bidder. That's the next bidder for that system. So by the time they pay this money, it's
Yes,
going
alright.
to the foreign account, and which it also agreement what we are using to the export.